listener production.
The creators of this podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which it is recorded. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the first storytellers of this land. We pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, as well as any Indigenous people who may be listening today.
The following episode of TOFOP is rated MA for mature audiences. It may contain sexual references, time travel references, allegations of bin misconduct, and mild coarse language. TOFOP advises that this episode is not suitable for anyone under the age of 15 or anyone who thinks a comedy conversation between two old mates sounds like a terrible idea for a show. Minors must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. This is John Deek speaking.
Everyone relax, this is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello, and thank you for watching.
Will, can I open with some good news? Some great news, in fact. You remember...
Good news, bad news, or just good news?
No, all good news. Or bad news
all
for you.
News.
Bad news for your future as an economic speculator, your understanding of the free market. Because I'm not sure if you remember, Will, but I foolishly made a late night purchase on Instagram, a 3-in-1 charger, which at the time I thought is going to solve all my problems. It's going to make me wire free. My watch, my earbuds, my phone, all charged in one spot. Little did I realize that all your devices had to be from the one company, which mine are not. 3 different companies. In fact, could not have been any worse, in a worse position as a customer to have made that purchase, that non-refundable purchase.
You're in a polyamorous relationship with your technology.
That's right, man. Just whatever whatever you're feeling, man. Made a bit of a JBL night tonight. No, I
don't want to be locked into one infrastructure, man.
That's right. I'm not going to be beholden to the ghost of Steve Jobs. That's what when you sign those agreements, that's what it means. Is like he can consume your soul to one day return, like Zool in Ghostbusters. So yes, I purchased it for $150 new, and realized my mistake immediately, like almost before I'd even unwrapped it. I did unwrap it just to double check that I couldn't use it, but once I did unwrap it and test it out and realized I couldn't use it, I put it back in the box. And I asked you, what do you think I can ask for it on resale?
What did I say? 100? Did I say 100?
No, you said half. You'll be lucky to get $50, I believe. I think you said half, more likely $50. And I was furious. I said, absolutely not. There is no way that I'm going to sell it for that little. So I put it on Gumtree. I put it under sort of like an anonymous name, not a pseudonym, I should say, just in case anyone who listened to the show happened to be scrolling through Gumtree. I didn't want them to take me for a ride knowing how desperate I was to sell.
I mean, it could have had the opposite effect. They could have gone, oh, this is the famous charger from the podcast that I like. This is basically, you could have advertised it as memorabilia. Then you might have got like $300.
I should have thought of that, because I think there is a function on Gumtree where it's like, it's not non-pickup. So like I could just mail it. So I could have said this is authentic as seen or as heard or maybe seen.
As heard.
Patreon
An entire episode basically about this thing. A couple of episodes.
Yeah.
It's been featured in a couple of episodes. You could own your own. This is actually TOFOP's version of an NFT.
Yeah.
You could literally own a...
Is it more like TOFOP's version of Planet Hollywood? Planet TOFOP. It's just a restaurant that's just filled with TOFOP memorabilia.
It would be great if somebody is collecting, like if this happened to be the same person who, has purchased the shaver that you mistakenly bought from overseas, and they just have this whole collection at home. They have a little museum of TOFOP.
In my lost phone, just our the court sketches we got done on the live show. Just like... Did you ever go to a Planet Hollywood? Did you ever, there's one in Sydney for a short time, and I remember being quite excited as a nerd who loved movies. I was caught up in the hype. You'd see Arnie and Sly and Bruce Willis like opening another one, and they're all like, flexing their guns and, high-fiving or some shit. And they even did they went all in on that. They did I think they did a half-hour TV special where they just literally called all their famous buddies to come in and just hang out. And there was a rough narrative to it. I remember seeing Luke Perry and Charlie Sheen at the bar together. Back when that was an innocent proposition in the mid-90s.
I mean, out of the two of them that we don't have with us anymore, you would have backed the other horse in that race.
Like if you're making a death prediction, yeah,
Yeah, I
not that
definitely
guy.
would have locked in Charlie Sheen well
Dylan.
before I locked in Luke Perry.
Yeah,
Not Dylan Walsh. No, Brandon Walsh. What was he? Dylan. What was his last name?
Dylan,
Brandon and Brenda Walsh. And
Yeah,
he was
okay.
Dylan.
Luke.
There was Andrea Zuckerberg. There was.
It'd have to be a cool name. We can't remember. What's a cool, what would a bad boy, like a good looking rebel who plays by his own rules? What would Dylanson. Dylan Thunder. Not Dylan Thunder, but it'd be something like that. Dylan Dean, Dylan.
Dylan in the name of.
Dylan Death. It's quite an Irish name.
Dylan O'Leary.
No, famous famous comedy director, film director, who now does serious Oscar nominated films.
Okay.
Started off with his
director.
SNL buddies, making kind of dumb comedies.
Dylan McKay.
Dylan McKay. We never really delved in. Do you want to know Dylan McKay's backstory?
Absolutely.
I'm curious
Let's
to know.
do it.
Like, was he well connected to his Irish roots? Did you see? Like, would he go to Boston and get like a tear in the eye?
I don't know. I mean, was there ever a St. Valentine's Day, not St. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day episode of Beverly Hills
I
90210?
don't know if there was. There would have been. Oh, there was. I know. I remember the episode because oh no, maybe it wasn't Valentine's Day, but there's an episode where Andrea Zuckerman and Brandon Walsh went to the races together, and she was in love with Brandon at the time. And she kept tipping, she didn't know anything about horse racing, but she kept tipping horses that had something to do with romance or love in the name. And she kept winning. Like, everyone thought she was some kind of like genius because she kept winning, but it was only because she was so in love with Brandon. She was trying to tell him by just betting on these horses who had love in the name.
So here's some good news. There was an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 that was about St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be fun. What was the name? So the name of the episode, it is
Top of the morning to you? Like, is it an Irish pun?
So it's as offensive as that.
Okay. Top of the morning to you.
What is Ireland famous for, which you imagine now is absolutely non-PC? That would be like
hating homosexuals.
Well, that's true. Not letting people have abortions.
Yeah.
Being ruled by the Catholic Church and all its dogma.
Fighting, getting drunk and fighting.
Okay, yeah, I'm talking more mythical creatures.
Oh, okay.
What is the mythical creature you associate with the leprechaun? The name of the episode was The Leprechaun.
Oh my God. But having said that, have you seen what the president of Ireland or the Prime Minister of Ireland looks like?
I mean, does he wear a little green suit and he's always got a pot of gold?
Wait till I drop this in the chat and you see. Like, I saw an article about, because he said that kids shouldn't be doing, like, he thinks that kids shouldn't be doing homework anymore. So he was in the press a lot last week. And then they posted his photo and I'm like, that is, hang on, here we go.
Do you hear the one about the Irish education system, Charlie? The teachers do the homework. Hey?
Right. Check this out, this dude. You can leave all this in, Mike. Where did it go?
Does Mike have our whole music?
Where the hell did it go? I just took a... Let's do it again. All right. Oh, can you not put pictures in the chat? Yeah, you know what? I'll put a link in the chat. Here we go.
Oh.
Now, if...
Okay, if Bernie Sanders got cursed by a leprechaun, that's what the Irish president would look like.
It's exactly what he would look like. But did you want to know a bit about Dylan McKay? Irish.
Well, wait, before we get to Dylan McKay, I want to give you the summary of the episode, The Leprechaun, set on St. Patrick's Day, because this might give us some insight. And there's just something that I've already seen in this episode description that we need to get to. So, over Donna's objection, Kelly hires a publicist named Pia to boost business for the boutique store. So did Donna and Kelly have a store together at some stage. Is that what we're talking
Makes
about
sense.
here?
They were best friends.
Yeah. So, but the devious Gina makes the situation worse when she fans the flames between Donna and Kelly and Pia just for her own amusement. Now, that's fine. Whatever. Who cares about that storyline? This is the one I wanted to get to. Over Janet's objection, Steve does what? So now, Steve Sanders, notorious bad boy of Beverly Hills 90210, always up to half-baked schemes, Steve Sanders.
Douchebag.
So the episode...
Lovable douchebag?
Yeah. So the episode is set on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And Steve is doing something over Janet's objection. The episode is called The Leprechaun. What does Steve do?
Oh, has he hired like a little person to come in and dance around?
Charlie, well
the
done.
Opening of the stalls.
Yeah. So over Janet's objection, Steve, and I'm just reading what they say here. I know this is not the proper term, but over Janet's objection, Steve hires a dwarf named Lou to pose as a leprechaun to promote the newspaper during St. Patrick's Day. While Noah gets an offer by a businesswoman named Janine for the Peach Pit space and must make a tough choice of whether or not to sell out Nat to the offer. When Dylan learns about Noah's situation, he decides to make his own move to buy the building himself.
How?
Don't know.
Wasn't he a high school kid?
Matt questions his own relationship with Kelly while handling a couple who wants a prenuptial agreement. Also, David's new romance with Claudia appears likely to be short-lived when she tells him she has to move back to Venezuela after her visa has expired.
Well, I've worked out how Dylan could afford to buy the Peach Pit. He's the son of a morally ambiguous business tycoon, Jack McKay, and his ex-hippie wife.
Jack McCock.
Jack McCock. Dylan started this series with a reputation of being a dangerous loner. But after he stands up for some bullies for freshman Scott Scanlon, who was Scott Scanlon? Was he not Brian Austin Green? You know how there was two?
Yeah.
And one of them got written out of it?
Well, I think he killed himself in the show.
Did he? Oh,
I believe so.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, Brian Austin Green's cowboy.
He was my Luke Perry.
Yeah, the cowboy hat friend, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, killed himself at the end of the first
that's right.
I mean,
was he playing with a gun?
in the show. Yeah, or maybe accidentally.
Was it an accidental
himself,
suicide? Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's see. So without the first two seasons, Dylan's relationship to Brenda helped him several traumatic events, including his struggle with alcoholism. I remember that episode because he literally starts the episode not an alcoholic and then finishes the episode in AA. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, Dylan McKay, is reading the signs real early. He's like, I met this guy, Charlie Sheen, at a bar, and I got a really bad feeling about where this is all headed. He also, his father went to jail for several white-collar crimes. Okay, so there's a bit of a wokeness to 90210 for the mid-90s. Like, someone having objections about, the trivialization of little people, white-collar crime. That's all pretty woke.
I mean, yeah, but Steve still did hire a little person and dress him as a leprechaun. So...
So when Dylan takes Brenda to Mexico against her father's wishes, her father forbids her to date him. Well, that's fair enough. I think if Ione is a teenager and her boyfriend, they skip to another country without informing the parents, I would sort of say I don't think you should. I reckon that bad boy loner, you should stay away from him.
What if, though, that bad boy loner had a cool haircut and a Porsche?
And millions of dollars.
And millions.
I'm coming around to this
of dollars that his dad had ripped off other white-collar criminals.
Brenda refused to obey her father's wishes and moves in with Dylan, who becomes increasingly unhappy in the relationship. Oh, we've all been there, mate. Hey? Hey? You thought it was all good. Well, I mean, aren't they in high school? Did they?
I think they moved out of. I think there was they were in the end of high school when the show started,
season.
But by the end of it, they were perhaps out of high school.
Okay. At this point, Jim proposes to send Brenda to France for a summer. With Brenda in France, Dylan starts spending a great deal of time with Kelly, who was always I think much hotter than Brenda. Were you Brenda or Kelly?
Kelly.
Yeah. Helping her babysit her little sister and entering a doubles beach volleyball tournament with her. Oh my God. The two have a strictly physical affair. Uh-huh. But Kelly ends it out of loyalty to Brenda. Oh, what's going to happen here? Upon Brenda's return
probably
from
should
Paris,
have not started loyalty to Brenda.
If loyalty is such a high priority,
Yeah.
I mean, how many times, if you have a strictly physical, does affair to me suggest more than once?
Yeah, it was definitely more than once. It wasn't like a one-night stand is once. They would say they had a one-night stand if it was once.
In a moment of passion, they lose them. She and Dylan reunite. It doesn't last long, though, as Brenda, who's also had an affair. What the hell is going on?
I mean, Brenda's gone to France.
9021 ho, if you know what I mean.
I mean, Dad must have known, though. Dad must have known that this was the whole plan, right?
Yeah.
I've got to send her to France. It's full of hot, sleazy French guys. She's going to eat that up. Absolutely. Get her out of this bloody Dylan. Get her out. No Irish, he put on the front door of their house.
So Dylan and Brenda break up and Dylan heads straight for Kelly. This doesn't last long, though. After Brenda sees him on a date, she gets angry at them. She takes a step back. They take a step back from their potential relationship. Dylan, confused about his relationship with both women, that's the old Betty and Veronica, takes a road trip to get away from them. Yeah, mate, we've all been there, mate. We're, you know. When he returns, Kelly and Brenda tell him to make a choice. Is he like, well, I can think of a solution. I'm not sure if it's going to fly with you dudes.
If they were making the show now, that could be an option. Like, I mean, if it was some, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If it was Euphoria 90210, that would be the solution.
When Dylan's father is released from prison, Kelly helps Dylan reestablish a healthy relationship. However, this does not last. Jack is apparently killed by a car bomb planted by the mob because he could not pay a debt. So Dylan spends the remainder of the third season managing his relationship with Kelly and the rest of his friends. And he graduates from West Beverly High School in the season finale. So that was all happening during high school. What were you doing when you were 17? Were you skipping out to France and...
I don't think that my parents were letting me take like long road trips to different countries.
Your parents weren't also in with the mob.
I'm pretty sure when I was at high school, I've got to be honest with you, like my parents would have to pick me up from a party still.
Really?
Like,
but that you lived in the country.
I guess I would crash at somebody else's house like for the night, but I'd be expected back the next day. And like they still would quite often, I would imagine in year 11 and 12, particularly living in the country, they just come and pick me up from something at like midnight or whatever time. So yeah, I can't imagine if I pitched them the idea that, I mean, we went to Melbourne a few times.
Yeah. How long would that take?
I mean, 3 hours.
Melbourne, the Paris of Hayfield.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in America you can get to another country in 3 hours drive. So they're in LA. They can
fly
almost
to France
they could.
What would that be, like 8 hours or something?
Yeah, that's still a long way away.
Yeah.
You could drive to Mexico.
Yeah. Well, didn't they do that? No, they just went to France. Was it Mexico? I imagine that.
Where did they go?
Takes Brenda to Mexico against
to Mexico. Yeah. So they just drove to Mexico. So that's the equivalent of going to Melbourne, apart from the fact that it's over the border into a different country.
Okay, I guess that, yeah, where it's known that, people can get kidnapped. There are parts of Mexico where it's dangerous to drive
notorious for its drug use. But other than that, everything should be fine.
6 and 17-year-olds.
I would have loved if Dylan McKay had embraced his Irish roots, and when his dad was blown up by the mob, he'd joined the IRA and gone into into a war, like the mob against the IRA, led by Dylan McKay. That would have been the next series of 90210 that I would have made.
Hang on. Dylan McKay is going to war against the IRA. Wouldn't he be going?
No, he's joining the IRA.
To take on the mob.
The mob killed his dad. Yeah. And so Dylan McKay needs some backup. He can't take on the mob by himself, but he embraces his Irish roots. He goes and gets Lou, the Leprechaun. He pops down to the local IRA and says, here I am.
Yeah, and Steve Sanders says to the mob, now the only way you can fight a stereotype's with another stereotype, so here's Super Mario. Let these two duke it out.
Just fight each other.
Well, back to my 3-in-1 phone charger. So,
yes.
You speculated that I would be lucky to get half, more like $50.
Yeah.
So I listed it initially as $125. Mm-hmm. No bites. No bites at all. Oh, no, I got one bite. from one dude who offered me $50 for it. And for a moment, I thought it was you. It's like as well, you'd signed into Gumtree.
Certainly did not got a bite. You did not get a bite. You got a little nibble. You entered into a negotiation at that point, but 50's too low. 50's come in too low. If you've started at 125, you're not going to 50 immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because there's these automated responses on Gumtree when you're sort of responding to kind of inquiries. And at first I was so insulted. I was like, I'm going to let this guy know what I think. But then there was one which was like, I was actually hoping for a little bit more or something like that. So I sent that off and he was like, fine, okay. And then another guy came in and offered me $90. And I went, done, sold. Like you'd spooked me. You'd spooked me.
He's probably friends with the fucking guy who offered you 50. He goes, you go in and offer him 50, spook him, get inside his head. I'll swoop in, offer him 90. Bang, bang, job done.
I was feeling pretty good about $90 bucks in cash. And he said it was going to be, he came around to get it and he said it was going to be a birthday present for his son-in-law. And I'm like, that's interesting though. Like if you got that, so just say, your partner's father gives you a Christmas present and you open it and you notice that it's not sealed. Are you like, you bought this secondhand? And then does that kind of, I wouldn't have a problem. I get secondhand stuff all the time, but part of me would be like, is he regifting? Is he farming this off on me?
Well, if you've married his daughter or vice versa, like, in the relationship, but he said son-in-law, didn't he? That was what it was? Son-in-law?
Yeah, son-in-law.
Okay. So presumably the son's married his son or his daughter, right? Like, to go into the family. They're happy with secondhand because that person is secondhand. He owned that person for the first 18 years of their life, and now they're out in the world.
I believe your children are your property.
Yeah.
Legally.
In a way, until they're adults, they kind of are your property. So all kids are secondhand. Like,
you wouldn't be slightly like, I'm not worth a brand new purchase. Part of you wouldn't feel undervalued by that?
I wouldn't know. If it was what I needed, if I needed a charger and it was an appropriate charger, I'd be wrapped. It's fine if it works. I don't care. It's good. And in fact, if anything, I would actually, particularly in the part of the world in which you live, like the idea of not throwing things out and being able to like repurpose them or recycle them or, get something that is pre-loved instead of buying something that's brand new is actually probably adds value to the gift rather than negates value. Maybe this son-in-law is so environmentally conscious. The reason that he hasn't actually got himself a new charger is that he doesn't want to add to all the
only secondhand. Maybe the whole family has a rule: only secondhand gifts, nothing new. Let's be environmentally conscious. Let's be as woke as the writers of 90210.
Maybe they got a couple of rescue dogs at some stage, which, let's be honest, are just secondhand dogs, right? That's what a rescue dog is. It's a pre-loved, pre-owned dog, but they've got the great thing in dogs where they call them rescues, which is just branding really for secondhand, right?
Yeah.
So, but maybe this family really liked that. It made them feel good. We've given like an animal a second chance. Maybe we could apply this principle to everything in our lives. Maybe
rescue.
I'll get a rescue charger. Maybe that's what they call it. They say, I got you a rescue charger. And that actually makes it better than a normal charger.
Yeah.
Than a charger.
You don't want a rescue condom though.
You don't want one of those.
There's certain things which, like rescue condom, rescue hypodermic needle. There's a few things which need to be.
It doesn't apply to everything. No, I understand. I understand that. But like in this case, I think it adds some charm to it.
Do you think anyone ever has reused a condom?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. People have washed them out and used them again. No doubt about that. Yeah.
I mean, you probably should. Again, in this day and age of like being environmentally conscious. Like,
no, but it just feels like one of those things where every time you wash it, somehow you're like
only if you're using the same, if it's with the same partner and you like it's birth control or something. I don't think you should be reusing it with like multiple different partners because who knows what's living in the.
But I'm even talking about the idea of if it was with your same partner, like the effectiveness of it might, like if you, like
depends,
the guy
depends how vigorous you are. Like I think I could get at least 5 or 6 uses out of mine.
Well, I mean, you have to change the tires on your car every 5,000 kilometers, and they're made of rubber as well. So I assume
it's a sprint, not a marathon.
That at some stage.
Now, Will, I'm glad we're back doing TOFOP because there's certain things I can only discuss with you, and there is this thing that's been bothering me, and I need to get your take on it.
Sure.
Because I don't know what's going on, and I've been trying to figure it out. So about 6 months ago, I went to a party, right? It was like an organized party with like, DJs and stuff. It was at this bar in town. And it was a real kind of like, oh, you remember when you were young and you'd see like a disco for like 30 plus? There's like 30 plus discos. You'd be like, oh my God, who goes to that? Well, I went to one. That's what it was. Like everyone
And you were
in there.
still the old guy.
No, I was probably on the young end. It was actually weird to be at like what is essentially like a nightclub, but no young people around. Because the last time I was in a nightclub, there was young people were in there too, but this was just like, 40 plus, maybe late 30s there, but mainly just like mature people sweating to the oldies. That's what we were doing. We're just like dancing to like the 90s. Anyway, so at this like little sort of snack table, and there's this woman there, and I've seen her around town, my town where I live, in the playground and stuff with her daughter. And so we just start chatting and stuff. And after a moment, I say, so I think I've seen you around town at the playground. And she's like, no, that's my sister. And I'm like, oh, you've got a twin? She said, no, that's just my sister. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, my mistake. Obviously, yeah, no problem. And so then I look like in the sort of weeks afterwards, I was like, she says this, it's like, it's exactly the same person. I'm telling you, like the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why? Are there any sisters that look identical? And then I was trying to think of like, I don't know. I've no siblings that look like they're related, but like, I don't know identical siblings that aren't twins. Anyway, I start sort of seeing this woman again, but not in where I live, more in Byron Bay. And I'm starting to think, why did this person tell me that and I'm like, she doesn't have a twin. She doesn't have a sister. She was trying to just stop talking to me. That's what I think happened, because the weird thing is there's been a couple of incidents where I've seen her. It either is like a sister who looks exactly like her, because
which could be the case. There are siblings, it's not very common, but it does happen where the siblings look incredibly similar to each other. Does this person have? I
could not think of one example.
I can't immediately think of an example either, but I bet siblings who look the same but aren't twins. I bet if I Google that, there will be.
I mean, the Hemsworths all look completely different. The Wilson brothers all look completely different. The core. Oh, you know what? The cores. Maybe I couldn't tell the three cores.
Right.
Apart from the brother.
Know.
But
can siblings sisters look alike if they aren't twins? Here we go.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes. Yeah. The answer is yes, and then there's a whole bunch of people saying, yeah, people will get me and my brother or sister confused all the time. So.
Oh, well, that makes me feel better, because I started to think that maybe this woman was lying. Like maybe she thought I was hitting on her or something, or she was just trying to like throw me off the trail. That no, that wasn't me. That was someone else. Because I've seen her since, we've even interacted since, and I'm like, oh, I think she's forgotten who I am, because I don't know. I've just never met siblings that look exactly the same, like same hairstyle. It's, you know what it is? It's very Rooster and Goose. Like, if they are sisters, then
is it a distinctive look? Like, yes. Does this person have a very distinctive look?
Well, not distinctive for up here. It's very boho, Byron Bay, white linen. Yeah. But her face is, very distinct, and her hairstyle and everything else about her. She's quite tanned. She looks like, she's maybe got mixed heritage. So it's not like, she's not a forgettable face. She's a memorable face. But I just was like, because I was talking about with Sammy Cav, and we were trying to get to the bottom of it. And I was like, do you think she lied to me? Do you think she doesn't have a twin? And she's just trying to get out of it.
If she has lied to you, then you do not want a person in your life who lies this easily and in like such, like, I mean, to invent a okay, here's what I will say.
All right.
People won't have heard it by the time that you're listening to this, because it's out of order chronologically and how it'll be released. But just about an hour ago, I recorded a TOFOP with a previous TOFOP guest, Sam Peterson, Mr. Sammy P. And he does a podcast called Confessions, where he goes on to Reddit, and he finds people who've like, said things, and he reads out the confessions. It's a really funny podcast. I've been listening to quite a lot of it over the summer period because, some of my regular podcasts were on holidays, and I just got into really listening to confessions. And so I probably listened to 20 or 30. And there was probably 2 in that where someone had invented having a twin, like to get out of a situation. So I'm not saying it's beyond the realms of possibility, because people have clearly done it before, and they've gone on to Reddit to confess that they've done it before. So there is a chance that this person has wanted to get away from you so much that they couldn't just say, oh, you might be confusing me for somebody else. But the fact that did they immediately say that's my sister?
Oh, when I brought it up, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
and you weren't
remember
saying it was anything like bad either, were you? Did you say it was a playground when said you originally saw them?
Yeah, because where I'd seen her, I'd taken her into the park and she was there with her kid. Yeah. And that was all But does she have a kid, this woman? Have we ascertained the fact that maybe it's the sister who has a kid? Because the kid can't look identical as well. The kid is how we solve this mystery. That's actually smart, because I've seen her since with the kid, but I can't remember if it's the same kid or not.
Yeah, you've been distracted by looking at. You've got to look at the kid
by the face and just start examining.
Because I can believe the fact that the 2 sisters might look alike, but they're not going to have identical kids as well. This is too far. But so you've got to crack the case of whether it's the same kid. Maybe she said to you, "That's my sister," because this person doesn't have any kids of her own, and that's why she knew the sister would be at the park and she wouldn't be at the park.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the question is why she would lie. The obvious one is she just wanted to get away from talking to me, which I completely understand.
I know, but I've been talking to you for 13 years, and I've never had to pretend that. Oh, that actually wasn't me. You've been talking to my brother for this whole time. You can't tell us apart.
Wal Sanderson. Yeah, but then when I was talking about it with Sam, and we were trying to work out why she would lie, I was like, oh, maybe she didn't. And Sam said it could just be one of those involuntary lies that you tell. And it just so happened that earlier that day, I'd been, we had a big group, friends up from Melbourne and Sydney. We had a big catch up at the beach. And I ran into some friends who were sort of like friends of friends. I don't know them that well. And so I got kind of put on the back foot. And there was a sort of lull in the greeting, like, hello, how you doing? And I pointed at one of the guy's watches and said, oh, it's like he's wearing an Apple Watch. And I said, oh, is that a Fitbit? And he was like, no, it's an Apple Watch. And then I said, oh, yeah, I've got one of those. And I don't. And then we had like a 2 or 3 minute conversation.
Famously, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. We had a 2 or 3 minute conversation about my Apple Watch that I just bought. And I was asking him, how do you set the blah, blah? And so he was showing me. And I don't know why I did it. Why? I just I felt awkward in the moment and there was like a dead air. And so I just threw this thing out and then I'd committed to it. And then it was too late for me to back out of this conversation.
But here's what I would say. It's so much easier for you to back out of that than inventing a sibling. That's what I would say. Like you can, like if that guy saw you again another time and you had like your Fitbit watch on and he was like, oh man, I thought you had an Apple Watch. You could easily go, I did, man, but I just had a whole bunch of problems with it and I've actually switched to the Fitbit or whatever. Like or I lost it. It's not on your wrist next time. I lost it. I don't wear it when I'm not at the gym. Whatever it is, it's easily, but to invent an entire identical sibling just to get out of a conversation feels like a lot. Because it's not even an embarrassing moment.
Panicking?
In these like confessions, Reddit confessions, right? It's always because they've done something really terrible. They've been caught like having sex with someone they shouldn't have done, or like they've broken in and they're like, no, that's my twin sister, or that's my identical sibling, or whatever. Like this was just a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I refuse to believe that she was finding conversation with you so unpleasant that she needed to invent a fictional sibling, unless that's her jam and that she's constantly always blaming things on her imaginary sibling.
Like, yeah, okay. So it's either like a, do you think it's like a neurodivergency kind of thing, or it's just a kink? It's like, I love telling guys about my fictional
just gaslighting guys that I have an identical sibling,
goes
not
home
a
and
twin.
have amazing sex. She's like, I did it again, Steve. What? I found a stranger and I told her about my imaginary sister.
I found a rube. That's his kink. He loves it.
Yeah.
He loves to watch it.
Yeah. It's just like,
Tell him you've got a sister who looks exactly like you. Go on. You get over there and you gaslight the hell out of him.
Hey, my partner and I were just watching you from across the bar. We dig your vibe. Can we tell you about our imaginary sister?
Imaginary sister? Imaginary identical sister is not a twin?
Well, yeah, okay.
Because if you're going to make up an identical sibling, then you make up a twin. That would be if I was like in that situation. You're like, oh, I've actually got a twin.
Yeah, you're right. There's a level of detail to saying it's the easy thing is twin. There's an extra level of detail which makes it seem more authentic, which is it's my sister. Twin? No. Yeah. Why? Because I gave her
the easiest thing is this. Oh yeah, I do go to that park occasionally. That would be the easiest thing. So if she's like a normal person and she's in this conversational situation, I think if it is her, like if there is no if literally she's denying that this is her, but it actually is her, the easiest thing of all would be just to be, unless she's murdered somebody at that park, I don't see why you would lie about being at the park, unless like the park is an alibi or something.
I have run into her. It's one of those things now, it's hilarious. I've seen her so many times and she even like it was kind of, we didn't have a conversation, but we were at, there's some Christmas, like kids' Christmas event. And I was talking with Jem and a few of our friends and her group overheard what we were talking about. And she yelled out, oh no, that's blah, 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 blah. And I was watching her and I'm like, does she recognize this the guy she blew off, or is this the twin? This is the non-twin sister? Like, because I don't know. It was just weird. I have sort of like we've sat across like next to each other at cafes, and I just like I'm so weirded out. Now, part of me wants to just go up and say, "Hey, look, can we just let's just be real? Can we be real now? Do you have a sister who looks? Are you the sister that has a sister who told me that you look like you, that looks like you, or what's going on? Please, just put me out of my misery." There will come a time where I will work up the courage to confront her.
Well, you don't need to confront her because it might be nothing.
Confront is too strong a word, but what I mean is like work it out. I will talk to her. There'll be. I've seen her too many times, and I think we have enough friends in common that we'll eventually cross.
The kid is the key. You've got to unlock the secret of the kid. Is it the same kid? If it's not the same kid, then it's not the same woman.
But she may have more than one kid.
Okay.
See, you didn't think of that, did you?
No, it's true. But didn't you say the kid was like in a pram or something?
No. But it was about Iona's age. And I'm talking like a year and a half ago. But the weird thing is I've seen her at that park once and never since. Every other time I've seen her, it's been in Byron, which is like obviously a much bigger town and more people and stuff. So I'm like,
the most likely story is that she has a sister who went to that park once.
No. She said her sister lives where I live in the same town. And I've never seen her here. I've only seen her in Byron.
This is a terrible lie if this woman is actually lying. Because it's like, when you're at high school and somebody's got like a girlfriend, but they go to a different school, like the school is hopefully far away. They live in another country. They live in Canada. That's you keep the lie as far away as possible. But the fact that you think she's gone on the front foot and made up a sister and the sister lives in the same town as you, I mean, this is deep inside your head if she's trying to do that.
Big time. It's been playing on my mind. And I
think she has a sister. This does not sound like a lie to me. I think the most likely scenario is that she has a sister who spends more time in the area that you spend, and she immediately knew it would be her sister because of that. And her sister just looks like her.
So if I see her around where I live, the sister,
scream, "Je accuse,"
as loudly as you can. To go up and say, hey, this may sound like a weird question, but do you have a sister who looks just like you? Like, it is weird, right? There's no way I can ease into that because I need to know and I must know, but there's no easy way to bring it up without sounding like a complete, isn't that weird? Let's role play. You be her.
So,
Okay, so we're just
I'm the real sister.
The real sister.
It turns out there is a real sister.
Okay.
She lives in the area you lived, but you have not met me before, right?
No, I haven't met you before, but I'm trying to work out if you are the sister, the fabled sister. So we're in line to get coffee at the local cafe. Mm-hmm. So you've just we're both waiting for our orders. So we're just standing there waiting for our orders.
Turmeric latte, please.
Did you order a turmeric latte?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
What is that? Is that sweet or is it kind of?
Oh, it's a little
spicy?
Sweet, but to be honest, it's the health benefits of turmeric that I actually have a shot of turmeric in the morning and really find it a healthy way to invigorate the lifestyle. So if I'm going to have a coffee as well, I have it on oat milk, but I have the turmeric latte with oat milk.
So this is going to sound weird. Have we met before?
I don't believe. Hang on, were you on Home and Away?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, I was.
Oh yeah. My kids love Home and Away. I've got some kids and they love Home and Away. Oh, nice. No, I don't. I mean, I think I would remember if we'd met before. So no.
It's just very weird. I was at this party about 6 months ago. And there was this person there who looked exactly like you. It was in Byron.
My sister.
She looks exactly like you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we get.
Why
this
the
all
fuck
the time.
are you lying to me? You're the same woman. Don't you bring that bullshit here? Why? Oh, you're calling the cops? I'm calling the cops. Yeah, go on. I'm going to wait here and see who they arrest. Me, the guy who's just trying to get to the truth, or you, a liar, a serial liar, psychopath. Oh, I'm the psychopath? Oh, I see what's going on here. Yeah, sure. I'm out of order. You're out of order. You're all out of order. Attica. I don't even know what that means. I've never even seen Dog Day Afternoon. Is it Attica? Is that what he yells out?
Yeah. So I think you're absolutely. But this is like before you completely had a meltdown. This was a fine strategy, which was have we met before?
Small talk.
Yeah. Right.
Have we met before?
You're like we met. What if it turns out then that you mistakenly it is the one you've spoken to before? Let's play that out. Right. Okay. So I'm going to change direction now. Okay. So you ask, have we met before?
Okay. Sorry, this is going to sound be a strange question, but have we met before?
Yes, we've met before. I had to fucking make up an imaginary sister just to get out of a conversation with you.
I fucking knew it. Jacques Hughes. Attica. I'm out of order. You're out of order. I'm calling the cops.
If you think it is the sister, so if it's in your local town, maybe even at the park, you right? So
same spot we first met.
Yeah, right.
Now it's sounding creepy. That's where we fell in love, Will.
Have you? If you ask somebody, have we met before, and they say no, and then you say, this might sound like a weird question, I bet they fill it in. Because if you look identical to your sister,
it's happening.
This is all the time. Happens all the time. So it would be the immediate thing they would think that you were going to say. So you'd hope. That's what I'd be doing. I'd be going, this might sound like weird. Forgive me if you get this all the time. And then almost try to let them fill in the end of that sentence. Yeah, I am the dentist. Oh, okay. All right. That wasn't what I was going with, but that's, at least you can kind of like let them control it. Like you don't have to lead with like, do you have a sister that looks exactly like you?
So I don't need to show her like my wall at home with like the red string and all the photos that I've got stuck up.
I've met your sister and I do not believe she exists or you exist. I'm too confused now.
The vaccines are part of a global conspiracy to control us.
Oh, well, now I'm interested. Yeah, sure.
So Top Gun's been nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel?
I mean, it's not nominated for like best wardrobe and
what is it? Best like it's just. I mean, they've put it on the list because it's not going to win, is it? Like, I mean, I can't imagine it's going to win. I don't care. Here's what I will tell you about the Oscars. There was a point in my life where I was super excited about the Academy Awards. And, it was something that I would give a fuck about, but I just don't care. I could care less about the Oscars.
I haven't cared for a long, long time.
There was just a point in my life where like movie stars giving each other little trophies really was like, whatever.
Well,
You're
this
already
is a time
rich.
in my life
just
where
go and buy a
movies
trophy.
I did not like were being lauded as being like the best films. Like, hang on.
It was just even just the idea of it. Like, I mean, like I think it's great to like to laud and admire people for doing good work that affects you, and people should absolutely be recognized for that. But there's just some aspect of it that I just find it's just like, do we need this? You won the award. You got to make a movie. You got to make a movie and go to red carpets and be invited to parties. That was your award.
Think famous, beautiful millionaires shouldn't be given awards as well?
Right, that's actually what we should do, because like all the people who work on the things, they should be recognized. Like the people who do the actual fucking like behind the scenes work. Not that I'm saying that the acting isn't work as well, but I'm just saying you're already being recognized for that.
Yeah,
in those moments and paid enormous amounts of money. The people who actually do all the technical stuff, I think there's like a place for recognition of that, of course.
Okay, so look, it's been nominated for all the technical stuff, but it has been nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. I mean, I don't want to dredge up old wounds, but like, there is a character who dresses, who looks, and behaves exactly like his dead father.
Okay, well, I didn't know we were going to go here again, but seeing we've gone here again, what if you want to justify this movie as being a good movie and explain the rooster thing? I think that the most compelling theory that keeps coming back to me on this is that Maverick's dead and it's all in his imagination, right? That Maverick dies in that early on in the movie, he does that, he takes it to Mach 10, that blows up the fucking plane and he dies. And the rest of the movie is kind of,
the last his synapse is firing their last burst.
And him reconciling, his relationship with like Goose and the guilt that he feels over that and the way that he spent his life and, whatever it is. And that kind of, in a way, makes all those things make sense, because in Maverick's imagination, Rooster would look like Goose and dress like Goose and replicate all these things that Goose did. But I'm not sure that that's what the movie is saying. Like, that's a way to read the movie, but I'm pretty sure that's not what the movie thinks the movie is, right?
Now, look, this is all just anecdotal, obviously, like art is subjective, blah, blah, blah. But our mate VK, who I went to see it with, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but VK's taste in VK's favorite genre of movie is shoot 'em ups. And that's how he describes them. He loves a good shoot 'em up. That's what he's looking for with the film. So we saw that film together. Now, he doesn't really have an interest in the film industry or any of that kind of shit. He's not into the Oscars or anything. VK was so incensed by the nomination. I got a text yesterday from him saying, how the fuck did Top Gun get nominated for an Oscar? It is literally one of the shittiest films of the year. So for him, just lunch pail, Johnny Lunch Pail, just your average film goer. For him to be that angry, I'm like, there is something going on here. So I said to him, don't worry about it. You and I are the only ones who see the truth. He followed up by said, I'm at a bloody loss, Charlie. I'm flabbergasted even. So I sent him a link to our our Top Gun Maverick best of summer compilation so he could draw all the way through it. But that really sort of struck home with me. Again, it's anecdotal, but Vaughn loves shoot 'em ups. And even he was able to look at Top Gun Maverick, which I say in terms of crowd-pleasing entertainment is at the top end. And even he was like, there's something sus about this. It just doesn't work.
I mean, to be recognised for the Academy Awards, the reason that it's being recognised is that they expanded out the list of Best Movie nominees so that they could put movies like Avatar and Top Gun on the list. That was the whole point. They're trying to get people to watch the Oscars again. So they wanted to put popular box office movies into the Oscars.
Clearly cynical move to get a younger demographic in. And it's clearly because they say that the Academy is made up of septuagenarians and stuff. And it's clearly
and there's nothing that septuagenarians think young people are into other than Top Gun, the remake of that movie from 100 years ago.
We'll get to the mailbag. Before we do, can I plug a few things? We have a YouTube channel, TOFOP TV. Every week, highlights go up there. So if you want to see highlights from the show, you want to see what Will and I look like when we're talking, you can go to YouTube. It's all free. You can subscribe and click the notification button. You'll be let know when new clips are coming. We also have a Patreon. And we have some great news. We are putting ad-free episodes. So if you want to skip the ads, you can pay for the privilege. As little as $1 a month, you can get ad-free episodes on the Patreon. We also have a whole back catalogue of bonus episodes that Will and I do, special Patreon mailbag episodes. We have artwork. We have behind-the-scenes photos. We've got a whole bunch of stuff, like years, probably 6 or 7 years worth of content if you're jonesing for some TOFOP. And then lastly, 2 Guys, 1 Cup Summer Edition, My Club, is back. It's bad. It's been fantastic. I really had a great time. I had Josh Garlop on last week. I'm not sure if you know Josh, but he has. When I looked up like how to describe him, it says he is the only sports comedy social media performer. Which I'm like, that's a very niche job. But if you've ever seen those hilarious AFL videos, that's Josh. So he's also a proud West Australian, which is great because I got him on to talk about the West Coast Eagles. But he's admitted to me before we jumped on that he doesn't really like the Eagles or the Dockers. Doesn't even really like AFL, which made him a prime candidate to analyze their list. But he used to be a sports journalist. And he talks about like what it used to be like being in a press conference with Ross Lyon, which is fantastic. Ross Lyon, apparently the master of misdirection. If Ross Lyon gets a question he doesn't like, he'll just make a comment about the tone of your voice or the shirt you're wearing or your haircut or whatever and completely just derail the question. I'm like, that's a bit of interesting insight. So 2 Guys, 1 Cup, My Club will be every week until the season starts again. Bunch of great celebrities. Everyone balks when I say celebrities. Famous Australians, notable Australians, well-known Australian supporters. So check all those episodes out. And then FOFOP, as Will said. So you think Semi P, you're not going to do Semi P this week? We can.
Oh, we can. Yeah, we can do it this week. Yeah, I mean, it just
might as well.
Okay, well, people can listen to that. It's a really good episode with Sam. He's just one of those people that I really enjoy all the work that he makes, and it's always fun to have him on the podcast. And we had a good time talking about Kesha and weird other things that we ended up talking
That's
about.
That's a sentence I never thought I'd hear you say.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we talked about how in the Confessions podcast, like one of the big themes identified by Dave Lawson is that the stories are about people shitting themselves, sleeping with someone they shouldn't sleep with, or fucking a ghost. And so that got me onto Kesha, because Kesha most famously had sex with a ghost. And it was one of those things, very TOFOP-like, where we never got to the point I was going to try to make about Kesha and ghosts. It just went somewhere else off the back of Kesha. So I think into Kesha trying to sue TikTok. It was a fun conversation. So you can check that out. But also Willosophy, if you're still subscribed to the Willosophy Patreon page, I have actually posted on the Patreon page for Willosophy 2 episodes from the Sydney Opera House that I did live last year with Nish Kumar and Veer Das. They are both really fun episodes if you still happen to be signed up to that. And I've got a bunch of shows. So if you go to comedy.com.au and just check where you are, but I'm touring all over Australia, and so those shows start very soon. And I'm currently doing my improvised What You Talking About Will shows in Sydney at the Sydney Comedy Store and in Newcastle at the Newcastle Comedy Club. So there may or may not be tickets available, but if you would like to come along to those, that'd be really fun. My book is called I Am Not Fine, Thanks, still available. It would be great if you would buy that. It's available in audio form as well, if you would enjoy it in that form.
Speaking of Nish Kumar and Willosophy, that actually dovetails beautifully into our first bit of mail. This is from Megan. Hey guys, hope you're both doing well. Well, I was, until I felt like some woman was making up an imaginary sister, not non-twin sister, to throw me off the case. Firstly, I'd like to thank Will for plugging his live Willosophy shows on the pod. I've been off social media for about 6 months. You too. Look at you, birds of a feather.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't have known about them otherwise. I then saw the show with Nish Kumar last night, and it was brilliant. I could have sat there all night listening to the two of you talk. Secondly, I'm super excited to see Charlie host Getaway. I don't watch much free-to-air these days outside of the ABC. So I don't know why I said it like that.
That's how you should say it. Due respect.
But I'm definitely going to be tuning in. I think the last time I watched Getaway, it was hosted by Shelley Craft, who will forever be Shelley from Saturday Disney to me. Now, I'd hate to pull you up on a factual inaccuracy, but I think you'll find Shelley Craft was the host of the great Shelley. Yeah, it's Shelley Craft, and she's also the host of the Great Outdoors. I think it's Shelley Craft. But she was the host of the Great Outdoors, not Getaway. But that's an easy mistake. Both travel shows, both have great. No, actually, one does. Only one is great in the title. Is it Shelley Croft or Craft?
Craft.
Sally.
Shelley.
Call her
Shelley.
Jeez, I hope she never listens to this.
She won't. I can guarantee you she'll never listen to this.
Thirdly, I've enjoyed the magpie chat. I personally love magpies, and I think their call is my favorite sound in the world. What is their call? Is that a magpie? And I think their call is my favorite sound in the world, but admittedly, I've never had a bad experience with swooping. The only thing that sticks out was actually when I was riding my bike. The magpie swooped and landed in a tree right in front of me in the path I needed to take to get home. I spent some time just sitting there on my bike, eyeballing it, knowing that it was going to swoop me again when I rode past, even though it was just a swoop and click, no actual contact. It's a surprisingly effective intimidation technique. Yeah, that's actually something I forgot to mention. Happened while we were on the break. I was at the gym, and I ride my bike from here to the gym, as discussed in the Magpie Saga. And as I was getting ready to leave the gym, get back on my bike, this dude stopped me, and he was Russian. And he wasn't in a hurry. He was actually Russian.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Murray Fields is here to tell us this anecdote.
And he was, should I do the accent? Is it racist for me to do the accent? He was like, can I ask you a question?
I think you can still do Russian. I think Putin has guaranteed that we're still allowed to satirize the Russians.
He's like, you ride your bike here. And I said, hang on, I've got to do Malkovich and Rounders ticket. You do not have my money. I kill you. Okay. Do you ride your bike here?
Yeah. Charlie KGB
right now. KGB, you do not have my money. I kill you. And I said, yes. And he's like, I don't want to do it. Last time I ride this bird, he swooped, he scared the shit out of me. And I'm like, oh yeah. I said, that I know it's a magpie. I said, look, I found an alternate path you can take around to get. And he's like, no, I can't do it. I only realized that when I did that, I have a phobia about birds. And I'm like, oh my God, that would have been a horrific way to discover you've got a phobia. I mean, that must happen though, where the first time you experience it, you're like, oh, fuck, I hate this. Like, I think I've got a phobia of a phobia of heights or a phobia of whatever it is.
Well, the first time you see something, you experience that you think they're trying to kill you, then that would, I don't know, I guess that would lead to a phobia. Yeah, I think so.
Finally, I've written in before and I got my message read out twice. Charlie clearly forgot he'd read my message and read it 2 pods in a row.
That does sound like us.
That. Ironically, I remember reading it out twice, but I don't remember the first time I read your letter. It was all good as far as I was concerned. The first step, Will was off and Foz was on. Okay. So I got to hear both their responses. That's worked out really well. But in both cases, it was very weird to hear your own words read out to you on the bus on the way home from work 2 weeks in a row. As always, thanks to the pod. It's a regular part of my week, and I appreciate the effort you go to get it out weekly despite your other commitments. I hope you have a lovely holiday season. Are you having a lovely holiday season, Will?
No.
Okay, we'll finish on this long one here. This is from Duncan. Hey, guys, just listening to TOFOP with James Clement from the Weekly Planet. And you talked about how your wife has long suspected you have ADHD. I just wanted to chime in and say, yes, absolutely, there is no question. And own it. You should be thankful that you did. To quote yourself from earlier in the episode, listen to your wife. I mean, you literally tangent in the middle of a story of this app to talk about this and that and then can't remember how you got there, which you do a lot, by the way. I've actually thought this many times while listening to your stories, which are always great, by the way. And you yourself have mentioned it a few times over the years, just as an offhanded, I don't know, maybe I have ADHD or something. Yeah, dude, embrace it, learn about it, do a 5-level deep dive on it. You'll learn so much about yourself and discover a lot of your preconceptions about ADHD are bullshit. Well, good news is I've actually got my appointment. They can't see me until like the middle of the year though. Like there's such a backlog. Just like chances are I will get distracted and forget that I have that appointment in July.
Well, the problem is like that obviously it's a bit of ADHD has been around forever, but there is some evidence to suggest that like our reliance on technology and the way that it affects our brains is leading to people being able to, like that it might be a contributing factor. So you suddenly have this time and period in our world and our knowledge around ADHD, but also all these triggers that might have led to people like being more susceptible to their brain being wired like that. So I think that, and then there's there's the other thing, which is that some people, there are allegations that some people bang on the fact that they have ADHD so they can get some speed from their doctor, basically, right?
All right, really?
Yeah. I mean, I would not like to tar the feather of the people who actually are legitimately seeking treatment for something that they, legitimately have with like a few bad eggs who are doing that. But I do think there is an element of that as well. But the problem with diagnosing you from this, listening to this podcast, is that you don't do a solo podcast. Like, the idea of like, you don't distract yourself. Quite often I'm the person who distracts you.
Yeah,
like
it's true.
I find something, like maybe you need to take me to the appointment with the doctor and they can do like a test where you're in the room and how your brain operates, and then try to do the same thing where I come into the room and start interrupting you and making you think of something else.
They need to do a control assessment with just me, and then they bring you in. And then they bring in like, I don't know, like an iPad or something and see what is more distracting to me, what is ruining my focus more.
No, you're fine on the iPad. You're actually pretty good. Yeah. Like you stayed there for ages. It's this fucker who's ruining you.
Duncan continues, please understand, this is not a diss. I hope it doesn't come across as rude as insulting. It doesn't. I myself have discovered over the last few years that I have ADHD, that I'm also autistic. At first I was indignant, but I soon learned that this was because I held completely outdated or inaccurate views of what the neurodivergencies are. Sorry to make you read the word neurodivergencies aloud twice.
I like the word neuro.
I think it's good too.
Divergent. It sounds cool.
I've been trying to work it into my vernacular.
No, of all the things that sometimes, things that people are dealing with get labeled with, and sometimes those labels are, do have a negative connotation with them and they carry some weight, but neurodivergent, that's some good branding. Whoever in the neurodivergent community came up with neurodivergent, that's fun.
Because it sounds like it's the lost Philip K. Dick novel, Neurodivergent. Have
you read Neurodivergent? It's amazing, man. Predicted so many things about the future.
In fact, since finding this out and learning more about them, I've also learned so much more about myself, my behavior, my habits. I've gained a retrospective understanding of so many awkward moments, like maybe potentially thinking that a woman having a very banal conversation with you is actually trying to dupe you into thinking she's got an imaginary sister. She
invented a sister. Yeah, I mean, that does feel pretty, like maybe you should clip this bit out and take it to the doctor. Maybe send it before you get to the appointment. Just a little.
Yeah, so I'll save you $400. Previous to this, it was a mystery to me. It has led to a higher level of self-understanding, which has led me to a level of self-acceptance, and in turn, a higher level of self-confidence. I mean, I think that is my primary interest in getting tested. Is not so much about understanding myself, because I feel like I understand, but it's more about Iona. I think, like if she starts having trouble concentrating or there's some issues, if I understand what she's going through, I think it'll make me a better father to, helping her educationally or whatever. I've learned my brain works differently to the neurotypical norm. I mean, that's good. That's the follow-up to Philip K. Dick's Neurodivergent, Neurotypical.
No, that was actually my children's book, Neurotypical Norm.
Yeah. That's not a bad thing. Understanding these differences means I can put things into place to help me account for them. It also means that I can explore them. For example, so I'm terrible at time management, and I can hyper-focus for hours on something that interests me, whereas something that doesn't will be walked past for months if I'm not careful. But I can use that to my advantage by becoming an expert in a subject or skill, which can be dug out later when it's useful, besides which it's fun. I mean, I agree with that part, but mine all tend to be things like Five, or Top Gun Maverick. Like, my focus tends to become on shit which is absolutely useless in any other form but this podcast.
Would you ever go on a show like Hard Quiz or any of those quiz shows where you need like a specialist topic? Like, do you think you know enough about Five after you researching Five that you could go on like Hard Quiz and answer questions about Five?
No, because I think that, like, if they were asking me basic info, like where was Richie born, or what year was, where was Sean Hale from, or what's Richie's favorite football team, I don't think I could answer any of that shit.
But if they ask you questions like, me specifically about what happened to Jay,
yeah, like, what's the deal with Jay? I can tell you everything about the events leading up to their formation and their breaking up, but not about the individual members.
Okay.
So I could tell you the order of I couldn't even tell you all the track listings. I know like 5 songs. That's not what interests me, Will.
No, it is amazing though, but I have a bit of that as well. I've spoken about this previously. There's a great Wu-Tang documentary called Of Mics and Men, and then they've made this TV series that's like a fictional account of
fictional,
and like I'm quite obsessed with it, even though it's not amazing. But I just love the story of Wu-Tang, and like I love but because there's always I reckon I've loved that group for 20 years or whatever. And I never, if somebody said, just name them all now. Of like I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like I get lost around 7 or 8. I'd be like Capadonna and like Master Killer, but I can't tell you exactly which one Master Killer is. Like, you know, that's, so I feel like it's taken me weeks to even get my head around. Like when I say people who have that a high level of specialist knowledge, I'm like, how do you know all this stuff about this topic? Because like, even if I've deep dived into researching something, I still feel like I'm barely ever scratching the surface.
Yeah, I'm 100% like that. And there's specific details. Like I'm good at broad brushstrokes on a topic. Like I can read.
Oh yeah, I can tell you the
something.
story of the Wu-Tang Clan back to front. Not specific dates and times and names, but like if you need the gist of how the Wu-Tang Clan came to be, I can absolutely. I'm your guy. I can absolutely give you the gist.
So Duncan says, my point is, I think, yes, you have ADHD. There's nothing wrong with you, and you can leverage those differences as strengths. Sorry about the long letter. I hope you got a laugh, a tangent conversation for the pod, and maybe some encouragement towards self-discovery. Thank you, Duncan. He also finishes, hi, Will. Congratulations on the book and all the various other successes you've been having lately. Well, that's a lovely letter.
It is a lovely letter. Can I say this, though? We do have a lot of, famously, Australia's number one medical podcast, as listened to by medical professionals. It's interesting to me that if, you know, perhaps that it is apparent that you have ADHD from listening to the conversation, that none of those medical experts have ever reached out. Like there's never been one of our doctors or nurses who've like
psychologists,
said, hey,
psychiatrists.
You know, a big listener of the podcast, but you know, because famously somebody like their life was saved because they had a lump on their neck and like a doctor was watching them on TV being interviewed and they saw the lump on their neck. It might have been like on a Big Brother or something like that. And like a doctor was just like, they need to get that lump checked out. That's definitely cancer. And they did, and it was. And so you would hope that if there was like medical experts who were listening to this who thought, you know, maybe there's some medical issue going on there, that they would alert us to that. Or would they be selfish enough that they're going, I don't want to ruin the magic. I like this podcast.
Mate, if I'm going to keep people living, they've got to keep me laughing, which means Charlie needs to keep getting distracted.
Yeah, exactly.
the little shit in life.
Yes.
Okay. So that is, just one last thing. So that beautiful long letter, and then Google their automated response. So I could reply to Duncan. It's giving me 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
So that beautiful long letter is really delved into it.
Yep.
The last thing is I hope you find this journey of self-discovery. I can respond with yes, please. Mm-hmm. Either is fine, or no, sorry. Which one do I hit?
Well, let's not go with no, sorry. That feels too much.
Yes, please?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, please. Okay. Well, Duncan, when you listen to this episode, you'll know exactly what this bizarre message I've just sent you means. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
How long? Not long. Everyone relax. Fucking stupid.
Listener.